If I got that deal at 165 and he has a 3% interest rate, I am going to have to come up with some cash because I'm going to have to pay that agent, I'm going to have to pay some closing fees, I'm going to have to pay the seller some cash. So that's what might hurt my deal. With on market, sometimes what hurts it is I just got to pay out a bunch because the seller can't pay the agent, the seller can't pay the closing fees because they don't have enough room, right? I always try to get the seller at least $5,000 in his pocket because if they're not getting anything, it's really hard to get them motivated to even look at your offer. It's kind of like, hey, you can try to sell this for 165, but by the time you pay the commissions and closing fees and probably a list of repairs because that thing needs work, right? You're gonna walk away with nothing. Or let me just take over your loan and I'll give you $5,000. So, nothing or $5,000, what sounds better? That's kind of how I get them to think about it.
With the numbers, how would it actually work for you? I mean, it's only been a week, but it's still not moving at that price. So,
well, that's the thing about creative. Creative, it doesn't matter about the price anymore. No one cares about the price. They care about the terms. When I go to an investor in that area that wants a rental and I say, hey, I got this deal for you. All you got to do is come up with $30,000, $35,000 and it's yours. And they don't have to come up with new $5,000. So, nothing or $5,000, what sounds better? That's kind of how I get them to think about it.
With the numbers, how would it actually work for you? I mean, it's only been a week, but it's still not moving at that price. So,
well, that's the thing about creative. Creative, it doesn't matter about the price anymore. No one cares about the price. They care about the terms. When I go to an investor in that area that wants a rental and I say, hey, I got this deal for you. All you got to do is come up with $30,000, $35,000 and it's yours. And they don't have to come up with new terms, new financing, new down payment, 9% interest rate today or whatever, and then get into a 3%. They'll pay whatever price I tell them. They'll be happy to get into that deal. That's why creative is so attractive. Buyers will overpay because of the terms. And they're still getting a deal because ARV is $250. So even if they pay whatever they pay for buy and hold, now for a flipper, it may not make sense, but for buy and hold, it makes a lot of sense. So Robin said, I like how you put out there she could do more deals with you in the future. I always forget that part. Always remember that part. Karen said you went straight to the point. Yeah, the nice thing about agents is I don't mess around. I like to start out and say, tell me what's going on. And then they'll just start jabbering and tell me. Sometimes they won't tell me much. Sometimes they'll tell me a lot. She was really helpful. She told me, hey, it needs a bunch of work. It smells bad, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, great. And then I just kind of go right into it. Charlotte said, when I mentioned the sub-2 scenario to my agent, her response was, the loan is not assumable. What's your response? Yeah, so that's a very common response. If the agent's unclear about what you're saying, I'll say, now listen, I'm not assuming the loan. I'm just taking over the loan. There's a big difference. Assuming would mean that I have to qualify and move the loan from them to me. And that's not what we're doing. We're actually just leaving the loan in their name, but I'm taking it over. So you just have to clarify that if they're uncertain about how that works. And did you guys notice how I offered to get on a call with the seller? I wish I could every time because oftentimes agents are the ones that screw it up because they don't know how to explain it back to the seller very well. I always offer, hey, let's put them on a conference call and I'll explain it to them.
I called a title company and I asked them to do a subject to, and they said, you mean assumable?
No, they just don't understand what subject to means. No, never use the word assumption, assumable. You can assume loans. There is such a thing as assuming a loan, but that's not what we're doing. I couldn't pay your asking price for cash, but if he was willing to wait to get some or all of his money, we could work out creative terms. Then I could make sure your commission gets paid, maybe put some money in his pocket, and then take over his loan. Do you think he would entertain that? This is what I always do with on market. I texted the agent and I said, "Hi Laura, I'm an investor. I'm interested in your listing on." Sometimes I'll say, "I want to make an all cash offer. Can I call you to discuss?" Or "When can I call you?" Or she replied back, "Sure." So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull this up so you guys can see what I'm looking at. So just to give a little context here on the background, this just came out as an active. And they did like a coming soon, and then they went live a couple days ago, and then they immediately did a 10K price reduction. Like within a week, they dropped the price 10 grand. So when I see something like that, it always sparks my interest. Hey, real quick, if you haven't tried PropWire yet, you're missing out. PropWire has changed the real estate game by giving you property data for free. It's the perfect addition to your real estate business because you get unlimited free searches and unlimited free property downloads. That means no more expensive lists, no more software subscriptions, no more pay-per-lead services. Just free data from a nationwide database of 157 million off-market and MLS properties, all at your fingertips 24 hours a day. Now, if you're a wholesaler in Atlanta looking for vacant houses, we've got that. If you're a rehabber in Las Vegas looking for bank-owned REOs, you're covered. If you're an agent in San Diego looking for listing leads, look no further. If you're involved in real estate in any way, as a lender, landlord, or other professional, PropWire has the data to power your real estate business. So you should definitely check it out. Just go to joinpropwire.com to search and download an unlimited number of leads, absolutely free. Now here's what's interesting. What I like to do is I like to jump over to PropWire and take a look at what's going on. And then I go to history, and this is interesting here. Some LLC bought this property in 2019 and then sold it a month later for 143. So I bet you this was what I call a wholesale. They just bought it and resold it. They obviously did well, but this guy bought it for 143. Now think about it. He's at 165. He can't go any lower. If he pays 10% total in closing, 6% to commissions, another couple percent, maybe do a couple repairs or whatever, he's right at break even. So what does that tell us? This is a perfect sub 2 type of deal. So that's going to be my angle with this agent. And by the way, this property's probably got an ARV of 250. So like if you go take a look at this neighborhood, this is on Kipling right here. I spent about 5 minutes before the call. So here's a 240. You can see it's just these brick ranches, right? Same thing as mine. Here's a 290, another bricker. 245, another bricker. And again, here's what ours looks like. Brick,